Perfect. All right, we're back to drawing, everybody. And we're slowly getting a little bit better, which is crazy. Crazy that practice makes you better at drawing. Newest lesson learned. But today we're going to be just grinding through a bunch of random, I don't know, practice sessions, warm-ups, super simple shapes, super simple everything, trying to get just slightly better at all of it. So today I'm trying this new method of drawing a side profile, or like a head from the side. And in this sort of study or this process, we're going to start with a box, and we're going to cut that box into we're going to cut it in half two ways, vertical and horizontal. And then this guide that I'm watching also cuts this first box into 3 little chunks here, or at least 3 marks. Same with this chunk here. Just like divide it in the half, and then those quarters as well. And then it also grinds through the second box into quarters. So we're just setting up all of these dividing lines first, so then we can go through and figure out all of our little detail spots and where things should end up lying. So with all of that, we are going to start laying in some detail. So this first quadrant is just going to be a quarter of a circle, so nothing crazy there. And then the second one, we're going to have that same quarter of the circle, but it's going to end at that little hash mark that we made on the second box. So we're going to come down and very roughly outline just that line. And as it goes, as we go further and further, we can make this line darker and more appealing, but for now we're just going to rock with that. I'm going to add another little hash mark about here, because now we're going to take this line and bring it down to about that midpoint of this next line. And whenever you're doing all of these testing drawings and practice drawings and all of this fun stuff, remember to always keep all these lines super light, because as we're going and as we're figuring this out, like I've already drawn a couple lines that I'm not happy with, but I keep them all in, because when I do switch to pen or darker lines, I know exactly where I'm supposed to be going. So with that, we can sort of start to see that the skull, or the shape of the head, is becoming pretty apparent, right? So now we have what's going to be the forehead, what's going to be the top of the head, and the back of the head. And now we can focus on the face and the jaw. So essentially, we know that the jaw is going to come down to this chin hash mark that we made. So let's just throw in a random smooth swoop, kind of like a Nike logo, just right there to give us an indication of where the jaw is going to be, where that line is going to end. And then we can sort of start mapping out some of the very simple facial structure pieces. So like the nose, let's just throw in at this cross between these 2 main boxes. Let's start the nose line and just bring it out at about, I don't know, 30-degree angle, whatever. You can play around with this. You can make it jump out to here. You can make it go really close to the face. But for now, we're just going to hit that little middle mark. And of course, keep that line light so we can always erase it and change it as we go. And then we're going to, from this nose, sort of mark out the mouth. And with all these quarter hash marks that we've added to some of these more priority boxes, we know that the mouth is going to be about at this middle one, so the middle of this secondary box. So we can put a little indication so that we remember that this is about where the mouth is going to be. And when we do this, it also lets us know where the nose is going to end on this drawing, right? So like everything sort of plays with each other. We're just putting indications everywhere so that when we do need to start finalizing and finishing, we have at least something to put our feet into, right? So with that, we know that this forehead, every profile shot, you can see the eyebrow ridge into sort of that indent in the nose that sort of sits in between both eyes. Like in both of these drawings, like this part is much shallower than the front of the nose, this part is much shallower than the front of the nose. It dips in. So on these drawings, we're going to just draw another sort of guiding line, nothing permanent yet, just some sort of angular line there to remind us that we are going to be drawing that portion of the nose and the bridge and the eyebrow. So now that we have that, we have the top of the head, the forehead, the back of the head, the back bottom of the head where the neck connects, the chin, most of the nose, or at least like an idea of where our nose is going to be. And now we have that sort of crook in the head that shows us where the eye is going to be. So now that we know that this is sort of the bridge of the nose, we can bring our pencils back and start just sort of mapping out about where we think the eye is going to be. So with eyes, when we're looking at a profile shot of the head, instead of eyes being this sort of almond shape that we always talk about, right? It's now going to be flipped to the side. So it's going to be just this portion. So we're going to see the far edge of the eye, and then it's going to end in the middle of the eye. So we can just infer that that's going to be sort of a pizza shape, right? Hey everybody, how's it going? So now that we know that this is sort of the shape of the side of the eye, just from this diagram alone, we're going to throw in just a super light pencil line version of this, because as we go through, we're going to figure out, you know, is that too big? Is it too small? Does it need to move to the left or the right? All of that good stuff. So now that we have that, we can basically take this same exact shape down at our mouth line that we just drew maybe 2 or 3 steps ago, and we're going to draw pretty much the exact same shape. And again, keeping all of our pencil lines super light, just making an idea of where our lips are going to be. I'm also going to erase that hash mark that we had in the very beginning, just to make this a little bit easier for us to read. And now you can see these two shapes are basically the same exact thing, but placed differently. So this will end up being the eye, and this will ultimately end up being the mouth. But again, these are all just little tiny placeholders so that as we start adding detail, we know where things are going to start lying. So I'm going to come up to this forehead and slowly follow down that idea that we had of the bridge of the nose into the edge of the nose. And then, with this mouth, we know that there has to be some sort of space between the mouth and the nose, and I'm thinking that that line ends up being maybe about here or so. So with this nose, I'm going to let it jut out, and then I'm going to cut it in about there. And now we're going to take a step back from this drawing and see, you know, is that nose too big? Is it too small? Maybe the lips are too big, or too high, or too low. I think right now the lips probably look a little bit too big for this drawing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to erase those, and I'm going to just thin them out a little bit, and maybe drop them down a little bit, more in the middle of the chin and the nose. So now, as we're looking at this, still we haven't done any sort of permanent line yet. We can see that there is like a lot more structure in this. Oh, thanks for all the likes. We can see that there's a ton more structure now just because we've gone from all of these pre-drawing marks and hash marks and everything into some darker lines. The mouth looks good to me, so what I'm going to do with this mouth is I'm going to split it in half, and now that gives us the chance to, instead of keeping it this pizza shape, we're actually going to cut in a little bit, so it's sort of that the opposite. Instead of a rounded outside, we're going to make sort of a V, and what that V turns into is going to be the lips from the side. We can keep that middle line for now, And this is ultimately going to end up just being shading at the end. So we can color it in just a little bit for now. Obviously this is all subject to change as we go and as we sort of work with this. Oh, thanks for liking the live. Hey everybody. And now that we have the lips that look, you know, at least passable, we're just trying to get everything to look passable before we move on to some of the finer details. We can take this nose and connect it to that skin and top of lip, add just a little bit of a curve there so it connects naturally to that lip line, and then we can sort of finalize that, the very front of the lip. And then from this, we are going to draw just a small indent right past that bottom lip, and you see how close it is to hooking up with this jaw that we drew at the very beginning. All you have to do is connect those lines up, and we have basically the start of the profile of the face. And all we did was really take our time. We really moved slowly through it, but proportionally this all looks pretty solid, and we can now sort of start adding in finer details. So I'm even going to cut this eye in half as well to give us a better indication of where the eyelid is going to lie and sort of center us in all of this detail, right? And what we're going to do from here is sort of start laying in just a little bit of an eyebrow, just some very light detail, just so we have more and more. Yo, what's up, Hayden? How you doing? We're doing profile drawing today. We're trying to get better at heads. Right now you can't totally see the detail, but we're getting there. It's like proportional and it's working. So as we're going, I'm going to cut that eye right in half. I'm going to start adding at least some idea of where the eyebrow is going to go. Again, every single pencil stroke at this point is subject to change. It's probably going to be erased, it's probably going to be moved. Oh well, looks good. Thank you very much. Do you draw yourself? So now we have sort of an eyebrow, we have sort of an eye, we have a pretty solid profile outline. This nose, we can sort of start going into detail brain and maybe adding some sort of nostril. So we're going to, from about where this bridge happens, if you draw a line straight down, that nostril is going to hook up pretty much right on it, if not a little bit past, like mine. So let's just draw a little line straight down. You can also see that this sort of hooks up to that end of the mouth as well. We're going to draw just like a little very soft C shape there. Tomorrow is Charlie Kirk National Day, Remembrance, RIP. True, rest in peace. All we have to do is line up a little bit of a nostril, which is again just sort of a line at this point, at this angle. It's just a small curved line into that nostril. And as you can see, all we did is basically just two little curved lines, like two very shallow C's, and that nostril looks pretty solid. And now, just from no detail at all, adding just those two lines made this nose look way better. So what we have now is a pretty detailed nose. We have some solid lips. We can even just color in a little bit more because I'm pretty happy with the style and the look of these lips. Bro, how did you learn to draw like that? Thanks for liking it. It just took a ton of practice, actually. Like, I've just been grinding on like a ton of different angles, a ton of different, like, I just drew eyes for a day, I just drew eyebrows and lips. These are some of my earlier faces that like finally started getting proportions right, but dude, way back in the day I was drawing, like, this was as good as I could get. Like, these faces were as close as I could get. And I've just been like slowly learning and getting much better. And it's finally starting to pay off. It's like, it's actually nuts. It's taken, I don't know how long. I should have set like a timer or something, but Yeah, it's just a ton of just subbed. Oh, thank you so much. That's badass. That means a lot to me. Um, where was I? Oh, just these two lines on the nose added so much to this whole face. So now, what we want to do is we want to recreate that idea on the eye. Like we want to add 2 or 3 lines on this eye and get it to be that sort of very detailed point that that nose is. So what we're going to do is we're going to focus on, first off, looking at the shape. I think it's probably fine shape-wise. We know that this top half is going to be all eyelid, so we don't want to draw too much eye there. And we know this bottom half is pretty important because usually whenever you're cartooning or whenever you're drawing, the bottom lines of everything are the darkest because usually your light source is coming from the top or like top down, so of course the bottom line is going to be where the shadow is. I'm very bad at art, that's why I like to see people do it because it's impressive. Dude, I know, and even like I watch so many people draw and paint and everything and I'm blown away. That's like one of the main reasons that I want to practice all the time is like I want to be able to draw a face quickly or like some cool thing quickly and like well, which right now I can't. It takes me hours just to get through like one of the simplest drawings ever. Oh, thanks for liking the live. So we're going to keep this bottom line as pretty dark, and then we're going to throw in just a small circle idea for the pupil. And now, as you can see, if you just sort of use your imagination a little bit, pretending this is an eyelid on the top, like that eye already looks fairly solid. It might go a little bit too far back, so maybe we just bring up that back line a little bit, and then we can just erase that first attempt. Already that looks a little bit better. Every time you're drawing or as you're drawing, just remember that everything should be like able to be erased at any second. Do you ever masturbate with chatters? I do not shooting blanks. Is that something you'd like to see? So now what we're going to do is throw up an eyelid that's going to go past that eye, and then we can basically take that eyelid all the way back, and now look at that. We've sort of separated the eye from the eyelid with that eyelash. You're gonna share my channel? That's so sick, thank you very much. But like if you look at that, like all I did was add a little bit of darkness to that middle line that we drew. So if you remember, all I did was draw that line in the middle to center us and make sure that we knew exactly what we needed. But I just added a little bit of eyelash and a little bit of color to that, and now it looks completely like an eyelash. It splits up the eye completely, and it gives us a chance to very lightly draw in the rest of the eyelid and give this eye some depth. Isn't that nuts? Who's saying masturbates? Oh, he got me cooked. I really thought he was asking me if I debated. Someone on TikTok Live was asking me if I was debating chat, but he just got me to say masturbate. That's solid. I have never seen that one work. I'm too focused on eyelids, man. You can't fault me. Okay, so now that we have this solid eyelid, we have this sweet eyelash, eye looks solid, that bridge looks sweet, the nose looks great. The lips are a little bit wonky to me, but I think we're just gonna forge on and get this drawing finished, and then we can go back and sort of finish and solidify some things with the pen when we start inking. So now that the eye is pretty much done, I'm gonna go back to this eyebrow, and I'm gonna round out that front edge, drop that down, and just sort of fill it out with color. Because the more value you add to things like eyebrows and lips and all of those things, usually the more full the drawing feels. So I'm not even going to be inking at all this point, but just adding that weight and that sort of the value to the eyebrow, it looks more realistic. It's crazy how you have to consider how the shadows and angles work together. I know. And that's the biggest thing practice helps, is just it teaches you so many times of how to draw every line and angle and keep the shadows consistent, because you'll draw 40 or 50 little sketches and they all look wrong for like the same reason, and then finally you draw that 41st one or that 51st drawing, you're like, oh my god, like that's how that line should work. And then now the next 10 drawings are just going to get infinitely better because you unlock that one little piece of information. It's sick. So now that we have this, I'm going to sort of bring that forehead in a little bit, keep it a little bit more shallow. I'm going to go back over all of these outline lines just to sort of make everything more permanent and solidify everything that we've been drawing so far. And then what we're going to do is start adding in just an idea of hair. And what this is going to do is, eventually when this drawing finishes, we'll have like a very realistic, or at least a more full drawing. So as this hair comes up and as we're swooping it around, we have to remember that it's going to come down just above the eyebrow, and that's going to come back around. And now we have this interesting problem where we never drew an ear on this piece. So remember all of these hash marks we made at the beginning, they set up our ear perfectly. So from here, that ear is going to go about at this line, maybe out to somewhere in between these two hash marks that we made, depending on the character you're drawing. So what we can do is we can start by just pretending that we know exactly where we want it to go. I'm going to choose right in the middle of these two hash marks for now. And then, now that we have that sort of idea of where the ear is going to be, we're going to take a step back and think, is that solid? And I think, yeah, that's pretty good. So I'm going to just make that line a little bit darker and continue on with that hair. And I'm even going to use some of the hair to cover up that top half of the ear. And then we can go back around. Maybe we want this hair a little bit bigger in some spots, but really it's just, you can just freestyle this as much as you want. And then from here we can just throw down a little idea of a neck. From the back of the head, it's probably going to come from about the ear. So from here, we can say the back of the neck's about there. And then we'll cut in that hair to the nape of the neck. And we can just erase some of the excess that we drew. And again, like, just a little bit of detail that we're adding is now making this drawing feel a lot more realistic, a lot more full, a lot more like we're taking this super seriously instead of what we're actually doing, which is just messing around. Have you ever drawn mountains? If I were to do art, that's the style I would do. I'm born and raised in Utah. Nature is amazing. Oh yeah, dude. I love Utah. I've done a bunch of road trips and camping trips out there. I have drawn a bunch of mountains, and if you really want to learn how to draw mountains quickly and like really incredibly, watch Bob Ross painting videos, but do what he does to mountains with a pencil. Like, try to recreate what he's doing with paint, just with pencil. Like, draw a bunch of dark shadows, a bunch of those big shapes, and then take your eraser and like highlight that mountain the same way that paint is. And all of a sudden you start learning a ton of like new shading techniques. You learn a ton about sort of shape, 3D objects, creating those big mountainscapes, and it's really fun. And then, you know, after all of that, you can go Yeah, right. That's how I learned how to draw mountains. Once you get all of that stuff down, you can just start outlining like just from memory and muscle memory because you've already done the really intense shading stuff. You ever been to Logan? I've driven through it. I've never hung out there. Um, oh, thanks for liking the live. Oh, and the follow. Sick. But back to this drawing, as you're talking about Logan, we can just continue to sort of fill this out, keeping everything pretty light. Usually whenever you're drawing hair, we can even add in a little bit of detail for this ear just to make it feel more real. Again, the goal is to just get a solid profile picture, profile face drawing, but we can do all these little details too just to make things more fun and feel like, you know, this drawing is complete and not just a floating face. So we'll throw that in. And now we can take another step back. Lol, sorry, taking you off topic. No, don't worry about it at all. The tutorial stuff I do is just filler. Like, I'm waiting for people to talk to me. As we're finishing this drawing up, we can now start choosing what needs to change and what needs to be, you know, taken to the final step, which is going to be inking in our case, or if something doesn't feel right or doesn't look right, how can we change it and fix it? So as I'm sitting here, I really don't see a ton that I want to change. I'm going to add a little bit of extra value on these lips. That eye is great. I love the eye. I think for now, maybe this neck is a little bit too thin. So we can widen that up just a little bit. Give us some options. And we can even throw in a little bit of indication that there's some muscle there. Okay, now, Crow! Nice on B, funny name. Thank you. It's been like that for, I want to say, the past like week or two. I'm surprised that you just caught it now, Crow. Crow, we have a new friend in chat, Hayden. They're hanging out. They like drawing. They like art. And they like Utah. Okay, now, when we're inking, all we have to do... How long has this been? 30 minutes? Holy hell. Now, basically, remember when all of the lines that I was drawing for this profile, like, as I was getting darker and darker? So now that we have these sort of dark pencil lines, we can change those to pen. And as we're changing these all to pen, we can also choose which ones are the most important to change to pen and which ones can leave, we can just like leave pencil and then erase later, right? Yes, well, I don't draw really, but I like watching it. Yeah, that's a better way. Who's the hell is Hayden? Oh, Hayden, you're in for a world of hurt with this Crow guy. Okay, so I really like this forehead line, so I'm going to keep that. I like the bridge of the nose, so I'm going to keep that. I love that front of the nose, so I'm going to keep that. Same with the lips. Already, this drawing is looking sweet. I think I don't want the top lip to pucker so much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop straight down into the lip and then curve in. Then we can curve for that bottom lip and then cut into that chin. And before I move any further forward, we're going to look at that. I think now that the pen is on page, I wish that I would have bumped out that chin a little bit more to make it more defined. It's a very soft chin, but you know what? We're going to roll with it. And sometimes we make mistakes, and that's fine, man. We can just bring that line down into the neck, smooth out that chin bump. Crow, how do you know how to read? That's a really good question, Hayden. Hayden is why I'm blasphemy. Crow, he called you out. I don't know if you know how to read. And now from here, we're just going to finalize some of this hair, keeping things still pretty light. I don't want to draw permanent hair too much. I just want to draw the idea that the hair is there, right? Because at the end of the day, I'm practicing faces, not hair, so it doesn't really matter to me. My goal isn't to draw a really solid hairdo, so we're just going to keep this pretty much all pencil, but we can darken things up just because we have the pen out. So we'll bring that up. We'll add in a little bit of bump, a little bit of volume, and then we'll finish that in. I do not believe you. Anyhow, Magnus, I don't know. I don't know where Magnus is. He hasn't been in today. So now from here, we're just gonna continue fucking rocking this little, all these little outlines. Again, the hair doesn't really matter. So we're just going to cruise with a little bit of texture, and that's pretty much all we're going to do for this lady's hairstyle. Now, back to the more important part of the drawing, the actual details. We're just going to give that ear a little bit extra detail, and now we're going to move on to the best part, which is all of the eye detail. So we can finalize that eyelash. We can go into this pupil, keeping that at perspective, and then we can also throw in a little bit of that bottom eyelash. You don't want to go too overboard. I think I already did a little bit, but it's not supposed to be the darkest thing in the world. It's just supposed to show that that eyelid is, you know, there in this world. What you up to, Crow? Good question, Hayden. What are you up to, Crow? Then we can go back. That beautiful nostril we drew earlier, we can just finalize with pen. Nothing crazy. I'm going to draw basically a double wide layer on that, the actual hole of the nose, because it's darker than everything else, so I want more ink there. That's sort of how you differentiate darkness and lightness when you're doing ink, is basically the more dark value you add, the darker the thing is in real life. Then for the mouth, we'll just throw in that line for the lip, and then all we have to do is shade that top lip and bottom lip with hash marks. Fill it in just a little bit, keeping that shape. That is good enough. And then we can go in and solidify this eyebrow into the light scratchy hair that it is. And that's basically it. All you have to do now is finalize that jawline a little bit. Finish that neck. And there you go. That is pretty sick. That's one of the best profile drawings I've ever done. Up to mischief, as usual. What about you? Boy, guy, woman, guy. Sir, man. Crow, you're going off the rails. Alright, and now from here, what we're going to do is we're going to go back to these two cartoon faces. We're going to ink them up. And then we're probably going to call it a night, everybody. Okay, so for this drawing, we had an angle face, a 3/4 angle instead of this profile drawing. And then for this one, it's head-on cartoon style. So for this slightly more realistic one, again, we're going to take our pen, and from our pencil drawing, we are just going to add pen ink to all of the darkest pencil lines that we added. We aren't going to go through and do all of like the super light stuff. It's just all of our permanent lines, all of our final lines that we did with dark pencil now get ink treatment. You're definitely an interesting individual, Crow, but keep being yourself. That's nice, Hayden. So we're going to go in and cut in. Remember when I was talking about the bridge of the nose? The same thing happens with the size of the eyes. So when you're looking at someone head on, you can barely tell, but there are indents from the top of your head to your temple to your cheekbones. So when you're drawing at this 3/4 level, you want to keep that little indent, basically mimicking that bridge of the nose, but on the side of the head. And that's just going to keep all of your drawings looking pretty realistic compared to cartoon style, and it's going to keep you drawing better and better. I'm just going to finish up this jawline a little bit quiet because I don't want to mess it up. And then I'm going to add in a little bit of a neckline there. Again, we can add in a little muscle line. Crow, you're going to continue being interesting? That's great. And now, from dark lines, I'm choosing all of these pretty carefully. I'm going to keep this bottom line a little bit broken up. I only want to show basically the absolutely necessary lines constantly. Everything else can pretty much disappear, but I need to have like any sort of like a small bit of structure is way more important than an actual like following that line all the way through. So I'm just going to throw in this bottom line. I'm not going to close off the eye. Again, on this side too, I'm just going to have these two little juts. So now it gives the reader or whoever is looking at this drawing something to think about and decide for themselves and like fill in those blanks. And then we'll just add in a little bit of wrinklage because eyes are 3D. They have a lot of folding parts. They have a lot of action in them. Your drawing looks more like normal breathing living human beings instead of Mandela catalog. Yes, I'm slowly getting away from the Mandela catalog. I still can't believe you roasted me with that. And then for the eyebrows, it's always pretty solid to just be very scratchy and voluminous on them. Didn't say you need my approval, by the way. Alright, boys. We're getting to be a little bit much. Alright. Same with the ear, the sideburn. We are just focusing on the outside lines and the most important lines that we can get. This hairstyle is a little bit Justin Bieber-y, which is fine. So we're going to keep everything light and loose. Maybe we add a little bit of a part in the back there. Keep that cascading down into the neck, almost like a mullet maybe. And then we can add just a little bit of swooping detail. All in here. Maybe it gets a little bit messy in the front. Again, we're just keeping things light, throwing in detail where we absolutely need it, not over detailing. Sorry, yes. Crow, I'm sorry. I think you're both hitting nerves. It's fine. And then ripping a little bit of wrinkle. That's one thing I've been really struggling with is when and how much wrinkle to add on faces and cartoon faces or realistic drawings, all the same. Because the second you add like one too many, you're immediately drawing a grandparent or someone in their 70s. But if you draw like too little, then the drawing looks empty and weird. And it's this weird balance of, well, do I actually want to draw a laugh line or an eye wrinkle or something like that? Or is this like the right thing for my drawing in this exact moment? And that's been slowly but surely I'm figuring that out, but still I'll rip a drawing and I'm trying to draw someone in their 20s and I add like 3 extra um, like laugh lines. It's like, oh my god, I just drew my grandpa again immediately. Like there's no warning. There's no fixing it either. So we're going to add in a little bit of value for that top lip. And then a little bit of value for this bottom lip. Maybe I added too much volume to those lips, but you know what? Who cares? And this guy actually kind of looks like Walt Jr. from Breaking Bad. Raid. Oh, sweet, thanks. Quartz Creations rating me with 3 people. That's badass. I also followed because I found what you're doing interesting. Thank you very much. That's so sweet. I'll follow you back, Quartz. We're drawing. I'm basically just trying to figure out how to draw profile pictures, 3/4 pictures, and head-on pictures. I've been having like the hardest time. Looks like Walt Jr., yeah? Doesn't it? Doesn't it look like Walt Jr.? I was not trying to draw Walt Jr., but I think he's seeping into my subconscious. But yeah, I'm just trying to cook, trying to practice. Other streams we did, now that you're here and rating me with your posse, other streams I did some Studio Ghibli stuff. I did a WWE superstar that someone from YouTube asked. I did a whole bunch of noses. These ones I was trying to do more realistic and then change those realism ones to cartoon noses, which honestly, it's got to be one of the hardest things of all time to like get a realistic nose down to its basic whatevers. But yeah, we've just been cooking. Oh, I did a bunch of owls one day. They didn't really turn out super well. You got this. Thank you very much. Do you also draw? Do you create stuff from your name? Also, Crow and Hayden, I'm talking to Twitch chat right now. Yeah, man. Sick. Let's trade IGs. Dude, absolutely. Mine's just my name. Nathan Bittinger. But I'll follow you on Twitch for sure, and then I'll check out your stuff. Were you just streaming and you're done and now rating, or what's the deal? Also, what do you think about the state of the art section of Twitch? Like, isn't it kind of strange? Like, everyone's drawing the same exact stuff. I feel like just to get views. Like, isn't it? There's something like someone figured out one way to get like 10 viewers, and now everyone's doing the same stuff. And it's like this weird snowball effect, and it's driving me crazy. But also, maybe I'm just looking too far into it. Okay. I'm gonna get back to this cartoon drawing. But thanks for the raid, Court, and thanks for hanging. I'm excited to... I'm not going crazy. Yeah, it is nuts. And like nobody's talking about it because nobody cares or gives... nobody gives a shit. But like for us, it's like, hey, what are you guys doing? Alright. Well, sick. Thanks for hanging out. Alright, Crow and Hayden, are you guys still fighting? Damn, those really transformed with the darker pen. Dude, I know. Isn't that crazy? It's like the, there's a whole part of drawing that is the conversation between like the viewer and the art itself. And so the more, oh, sick. Thank you, Court. The more like you have dark values versus light values, especially if you're drawing on like white paper, it gives the viewer more and more information. So like I can draw pencil all day and it can look weird, but then if I put pen on those designated like permanent pencil lines, it gets that drawing to the point where everyone sees it and they understand it a little bit better. That's the main 3. Oh, sick. Oh, thank you very much. Do you want me to check those out right now, or can I wait a little bit? Totoro Squirrel Man? Yeah, up to you. Okay. I'll check them out in a second. It could be because I'm actual likable. Yeah, Crow, you're likable. You're just a little bit rough around the edges. You're ruffling feathers like a crow would. Up to you, do what feels best. What's your Twitch? Same as my YouTube, Naswan B. I'm trying, I have 0 followers on Twitch, and I'm trying to figure out how to get people from YouTube and TikTok over there without being annoying. That's the trick. I don't want to be annoying. Alright, let's check out courtdoesart.com. I wonder if this will work. Nope. Maybe this. Nope. Why isn't that? Let's go to here. Beautiful. Okay. This is Quartz portfolio. Oh, hell yeah. Let's cook. Stuck around. Ooh. A bunch of sticker art. Or is this a photograph of a bunch of stickers? I'm guessing. Oh, it's all photography. Sick. Court, this is great. Getting closer. Oh, very, very cool. Playing with perspective. Barbecue trash. Sick. Okay. Great photography. Let's check out the digital art. Instagram. Oh yeah, this is sick. 1 second. Window capture. Soon I'll get better at this. But for now, who cares? Okay. This is solid. Oh yeah. No! I don't want to log in. Oh, this sucks. Well, I'll keep looking. But, very solid stuff. It's badass. I don't know if Court's still there. The mic broke? No. How about now? Are we back? I'm guessing? Yes. Okay, cool. Alright. Well, Quartz Creations is good. It's badass. I'm still figuring out. I'm guessing that desktop, whenever I switch to my desktop view, I think my mic switches to my headset, which is like underneath my desk. So that makes a lot of sense. Was it just silent or was it just like very low? Okay. Back to drawing. I can't remember if I was even on a lesson or not, but very low. Interesting. Okay. Okay, I'm back. Quartz! You missed it. I looked at your photography and your digital art. You hear me perfectly? I was on my desktop and oh, it was all very good. The photography was solid. It was great, and the digital art is badass. Like it would be really cool if you did a bunch of digital art stickers. Like you designed a ton of stickers, and then you put them on an electrical box, and then you shot that photo. So then it's like not only is the photograph cool because it's a bunch of art on an electric box, but it's all your drawn art. Think of that in your portfolio. That'd be sick. Ain't got nothing to say, Crow. Crow and Aiden, you guys are going at it. It's like watching it's like watching people play chess. I hope it's fun and no one's actually getting upset. I'll try that on an item. You should. I think it'd be really cool. I know Redbubble, and there's like a ton of sticker sites that all of your digital art you can instantly just like print as stickers, which would be sick. Okay, let's ink this cartoon guy and see how he changes. So, like all of these drawings, we just want to focus on the darkest lines and where the shadow would go. Damn, making stickers would be dope. I know. Stickers are really cool. Also, can I order that? I have a shop? Oh, sick. Yeah, you can definitely order it. When you say you have a shop, does that mean on Redbubble? Or does that mean... Like, do you have a brick and mortar store? No, I ain't mad. Good. I didn't think either of you guys were, but I gotta make sure. There's only 3 people in chat right now, and 2 of them are fighting. So it's like I gotta step in at some point. That's like 66% of everybody talking to me. But yeah, you can order that. Okay, so with this, again, we just want to focus on all of the darkest lines. Oh no. Okay, that's good. And hopefully, if we're lucky, Crow's back. Nice. What happened? Nothing. We were just giggling about absolutely nothing. And now we're inking this guy, and then we'll probably end. We also, I don't know if you saw it, Crow, but oh wait, yeah, you did, because you heard the whole low mic and everything. Okay, so we're going to finish and focus on these dark lines that previously I said were permanent. That's why I made them darker with my pencil. And as we're going, part of me is going to add small little changes to this pencil line and to these little indicators, because after sitting with this drawing and looking at it for long enough, you sort of see where your mistakes are with pencil. And instead of erasing those lines and redrawing with pencil, you can just draw over the correct way with pen. And it kind of works out and feels a lot better. So, we'll rip this ear. We'll throw that out. We'll give him a little lobe. This ear, we'll just outline, and then we'll throw in some of those ear details. A lot of people, you know what? Just give up on ears. Just screw it. No one cares about ears anymore. We'll throw in this big beefy eyebrow this guy has, and we'll even add in a bunch of detail, like make them really bushy by adding in a bunch of ink inside of our outline, and that's going to be awesome. And then, because if you remember when I was talking earlier, you only want to ink and draw these like heavy dark lines where things are shadows. Like if you look at this profile, like the eyelashes got a bunch of ink, the lips got a bunch of ink, but everything else is pretty much the same, like line weight is what we call it. When a line is super thick or super dark, we call the weight of a line. And so, what are you talking about? If anything, you're the mad one. I was gone and you're smack talking. Yeah, I totally know you left chat. You boys. I'm gonna have to jump in here and start throwing hands. Did anyone ever taught you to spell sentences correctly? Oh no, Crow. You made a typo in that one. It should have been, has anyone ever taught you? Or did anyone ever teach you? Oh. You gotta edit that quick before he sees it. Okay, back to this. The reason I bring up the line weight stuff is because we want this top eyelid where all the shadow is hitting to be the dark spots. And then for this bottom eyelid, we really just need a little indication. And then we can throw in all of that dark value just for the pupil. And as the reader, as you're looking at it, you can see, or like you can imagine that this is a full eye, but I don't have to draw that full eye ever. You know what I mean? So then, continuing on with that same principle, with pencil, I have these dark lines for the tops of the nose, the bridge of the nose, right? So instead of keeping those super dark, when I'm with my pen, I'm going to do what I did with this bottom line of the eye, and I'm just going to slightly indicate that this is the bridge of the nose. So I'm going to not draw a full dark line. I'm going to break it up a little bit. So I'm just going to add a top indication of ink, and then I'm going to let a little space breathe, and then I'm going to add a little dot at the bottom. And now what we can do is finish out this nose, making sure these nostrils curve in correctly. Draw the two holes of the nostrils, and then cut in with that bottom of the nose. And then from here, basically, all we have to do is draw that little teardrop that happens above the lips, a little laugh line, his mouth. We can give him just barely any top lip, and maybe just a little bottom lip, and then a little shadow as well. Add in the teeth. This guy's looking pretty solid, actually. I'm psyched how he turned out. And then basically we're just finishing up little bits of detail. Add a little bit of wrinklage. Add a little bit of complexion. Maybe some cheekbone action. And then just find all of the other little lines that we haven't finished. Finish them with ink. Get his chin going. Might have just screwed that up completely, but that's okay, because we're done, buddy. We're done and we figured it out. We'll just throw in some sort of indication of neck, keeping the lines as crispy as possible, but sometimes it screws up, which is fine. And there we go. That is 3 ways to do cartoons. And how am I reading your nonsense? Come on, bro. I thought Nathan is just doing his stuff. I'll be back on next time. Peace. Yo, and I can agree with Crow. Well, damn. See ya, Aiden. I don't know if you're still here. I hope you are, but thanks for hanging. Sorry to see you go. Don't agree with me. You're making me look bad. Crow, I think both of you guys are making yourselves look bad. We're drawing. all I'm doing is drawing cartoons here, and you guys are just like yapping away. We're chilling. Everybody's happy here. And with that too, wow! Average view duration, 25 minutes. I think that's all you, Crow. Which is banging. We should get you a badge. Okay. Anyway, Nathan. Yes, Crow? We're getting close. Wait, what? I don't know. But we're getting close to the end of this stream. We got 3 cartoon faces and it's been an hour. I'm looking at the clock. I'm staring down the barrel of a gun, buddy. I'm trying to clock out. What do you mean badge? Oh, I was just like, I don't know. Some creators have badges and stuff. Like, we gotta set one up for you. It'll just be a big fist pounding a table or something. I'm not making any promises. I don't know how likely that is, but it would be cool. That's all I'm saying. That's only for members, I believe. Oh. See, this is the shit that sucks. I don't get any of this stuff. I don't understand this stuff, man. I'm not from this side of the block, man. Okay, I'm done drawing. I'm sick of it. So I'm going to end stream now, Crow. Thanks for hanging out. As always, I love having you here. You fought Hayden the whole time, which is bad behavior. Next time we're not fighting in chat while I'm trying to do drawing tutorials. That's my one new rule. If I'm drawing, no fighting. Yeah, that is my new rule. But I'm very glad you hung out. I'll be on probably tomorrow, same time. If you want to chill, great. If you're busy, that's fine too. See you later, big man.